I'm missing a packet. Yeah, just a second. A large packet, a big on it? No, not it. Well, no, well, yeah, you've got mine. That's what I'm looking for. It got dropped there. There we go. Okay, mystery solved. Good morning, everyone. Nice to see you here. It's 9:02. I'm ready to call this meeting to order. My name is Kay Williams, and I am chairman in charge of this Properties Committee. And it's an honor to be allowed to do this again. This is not my first rodeo with properties, so I'm also excited about the fact that we have many new members on this committee. As some of you may be aware, we got a little more flexible and changed the rules a little, that if you're on a standing committee for 3 years, then you need to move on. And so for our sake, that's to our advantage this year, because we've got new faces, new ideas, and lots of new energy, I hope. So if you're able, if you will please stand and join me in the pledge. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Thank you. We do have a quorum this morning. We have one member who is online. Can you hear us, Mike?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay. All right, and we have 2 others with excused absences. So I'd like to welcome the guests in the audience, even though they are sparse this morning. But Lindsay Davidson is one of our new directors that was unable to be here today. Mike Cassanda is the one we just connected with, who's on the telephone. So just to kind of give a background, even though we've got a very small audience, just so everybody understands the process, we always like to have the guests in the audience get up and speak at the appropriate time. You'll have that opportunity to ask questions on each agenda item as it continues on. Also, for those of you listening at home, there is an opportunity for you to submit comments or questions. As time goes by, there is about a 30-second delay when your message gets to us, but we will answer those. Jolene will be keeping track of those and letting me know when we have any messages that have come in. We really are interested in increasing the transparency of all of the activities with the governing board. And so you can also listen to it on YouTube. If our meeting time interferes with your golf time when you get home, you can listen to the meeting at that point. It's on there continually at your discretion. So hopefully, and we do get a lot of people to take advantage of that since we added that feature to our way that we produce our meetings. So we also have something else new, and there is a document I need to read to you. This document will be read at every standing committee meeting and every governing board workshop and governing board meeting. The governing board conducts all of its meetings, including committee meetings, with Arizona Open Meeting Laws, ARS 33-1804, and in concert with the Rec Centers of Sun City West bylaws, policies, standing rules. Parliamentary procedures are outlined in the most recent edition of Robert's Rules of Order. They will also be followed consistent with Bylaw 3.7, Procedures for Owner-Member Meetings, and Standing Rules number 2 and number 3. All questions and comments are directed to the committee chair. All comments are entertained at the discretion of the committee chairperson. Speakers shall state their name and member number and speak in a courteous manner. The committee chairperson may limit comment time and the number of comments spoken on any issue. The committee chairperson also may redirect commentary at individual agenda items to the general guest comment. Agreed time limit, except when the committee has discussed the agenda item and the consensus or agreement is sought. All fire and room safety precautions and regulations are strictly obeyed at all meetings per the guide of the Arizona Fire and Medical Authority. The committee chairperson reserves the right to adjourn any meeting if the safety of the committee meetings attendees or others is deemed at risk, or if there is too much disruption to continue. After one verbal warning by the chairperson, the committee chair also has the right to reserve the right to ask any meeting attendee to leave any meeting should there be behavior deemed dangerous or unacceptable. Disciplinary action may follow. So now we can get to the agenda. Out of the way. 2.0. This is kind of a strange question to ask because this is where we approved the minutes from our last meeting, which was May 9th. And John, since you and I were the only two here that were on that meeting at last May, do you have any changes or corrections?
No.
Anyone else? Then they will be accepted as written. The next thing is awfully important to all of you sitting here with me, and that is the use of your microphone. When any of you wish to speak, you need to push the little button. The green button will come on. You need to be about 4 or 5 inches away from it to make sure that it can be heard, but equally as important, since these meetings are recorded, it is equally super important that when Karen does the minutes, that she can hear what was said. So, and again, if you forget to turn your mic on, the gentleman in the back will wave at you and remind you that you turn it on, and also if he realizes you've left it on, he'll let you know it's time to turn it off. So that's more important this year because we are making some changes in how minutes are being done. They are going to be much more straight Robert's rules. They're not going to be as detailed. So it's, you'll hear more about that later, but it's very important that we get the appropriate stuff where it can be heard, where it can be put in those minutes. So lots of changes there. I would like each of the members of this new Properties Committee to state their name and give a brief story of their background or their experience. I'll start. I've lived in Sun City West for 20 years. I've served 5 years on the HR committee, 1 year on long-range planning, 7 years on properties, 4 space allocation studies, and 2 general manager selection committees. Our standing comment is, I wear my name tag when I'm home so my husband remembers my name. Suzanne, you want to start, please?
I'm Suzanne Jones. I have had the pleasure of living in Sun City West for 16 years. Over the 16 years, I've never volunteered for a committee. I've only worked with ARC and the Broadcast Club, and I have been a member of the Metal Club. But I decided it's time to step up and do something. So I have joined the Properties Committee, and I'm looking forward to a wonderful year of working with these great people. Thank you.
Lynn?
Good morning, my name is Lynn Johnson, and my wife and I have lived here in Sun City West for 4 years now, got here in 2020. Enjoy golf and softball and pickleball, and it's a great community, and figured I needed to be part of the community as well, so Kay asked me if I'd like to join, and I said yes, so here I am. Thank you.
I'm Jolene Piaskowski. I am a governing board member, so I'm part of Kay and Jack and everyone else. I've lived in Sun City West for 8 years. I belong to 4 or 5 clubs, and looking forward to seeing what the properties all has to do.
John?
I'm John Hobold. My wife and I have been in the community for 12 years. I've spent 1 year on the Chartered Club Committee, 4 years on Budget and Finance, and this is my 2nd year on Properties Committee. I'm active in golf, dancing, and a little bit of dabbling with Theater West. I love this community. My wife and I are very, very happy here. It's an extremely well-run community for the benefit of the residents, and I think that mission is pervasive throughout the administration of the community, as well as the people that serve on the committees as volunteers. I'd like to keep the strengths that the community have and support those as best I can, and those areas that can be improved, I'm all for doing what I can. I'm not opposed to change when it's beneficial for the community. Again, it's a wonderful place to live. We all need to pitch in and do our parts to keep it that way. Thank you.
I'm Kathy Estes. And Suzanne, you forgot to mention you're also a member of Prides for many, many years. So I've been in Sun City West for about 6 years. Before that, I was controller of a technology sales company in Boise, Idaho. The first thing I did was take the torch class, and then I joined the Prides. So I've been a member of Prides for 6 years. For the past 3 years, I was on the Chartered Club Committee, and as part of that committee, I served on the club track and the space utilization work groups, which was really interesting and helped me learn a lot about how those programs work and what we need to do as far as space utilization and assigning space to different clubs. Currently, I'm a member of the Silvercraft Club and serving as their president. We will be undergoing a remodel next spring, and I'm looking forward to learning more about each individual property and location, how we can improve that, how we maintain it, what might be coming up in the near future as far as repair and replacement on those things. This is a terrific community, and it behooves all of us to make sure that it stays that way. And you do that by staying on top of things and not letting things deteriorate. That takes time, and it takes money, and it takes planning. So I'm looking forward to serving with all these lovely people and being part of the community here. Thank you.
And last but not least, Mike, you're up.
Well, my name is Mike Cassanda. I've been a member of the community since 2010, 14 years. I've been on the election committee, the long range planning committee. I play golf, I play tennis. I'm a member of the Railroad Club and a member of ARC, so I know Susan. And we were told by a president a couple years ago that not enough of us were participating, so I decided I would try to help out as best as I can, and I look forward to working with this committee.
Thank you all. I'm looking forward to an exciting committee that has eyes open, ears open, and not shy, especially when we start our inspections. That's one of the most important things that this committee does, and so wear good shoes, sunblock if necessary, bring water, because when we start the walkthroughs, you will be spending about 3 hours for 6 Tuesdays of your life coming up, which you'll hear more about in a little while. So that's where we are. Just for the benefit of the audience, I did a special training session last week because we had so many new members. And so at that time, you were given information on BoardDocs and YouTube. There's another handout in the packet before you today. Do you have any other questions or anything on how that works? Okay, we can move along. That gets us down to 3.05, which is community roles and redlining. And I'm not going to go into a long dissertation about how that's going to work, but one of the changes is that the committees, first of all, are advisory only. We don't make decisions, we do make recommendations to the governing board. So when we have our meetings and items come up that we perhaps might want to make a change on, for example, a policy, it's our responsibility to put in writing and redlining about whatever we want removed and what we want to add. And then it will come, first of all, to us as a committee to make a decision if we wish to recommend it be moved forward. From here, then it will go to governing board workshop and then governing board regular meeting for adoption. So that gives you a thumbnail sketch on what we have as far as our new responsibility. You're going to see the first batch of minutes that come out are going to look very different from what you're used to. So Karen is going to get us all flying in formation, I'm sure, and everything will work out just fine. So the issues that become before this committee, like I said, the most important one is probably our inspection of all the rec centers, all of our amenities. We do that separate from a regular meeting. So it is just dedicated to that. We are starting September 24th, 6:45 a.m. We will be at Palm Ridge, out by the entryway to the fitness area. And so that at the end, Jolene will be, and John both will be our scribes, keeping track of ideas that we have or issues we notice that need repair and replacement. At the end of each session, we get together and make sure that list is complete. For those things that are immediate repairs that need doing, I will get that list to Russ right away. Russ is excellent at getting things done. Usually by the time we meet the next week at the next place, he's got all those repairs taken care of and working on it. So that way that doesn't delay that process. As far as any changes we want made, that whole process at the very end, we put together one composite report, and that comes to the governing board as recommendations of what we see in our inspections. Carl and Russ are our go-to guys for this committee, and thank goodness they are. So they will be here at all of our meetings, as well as every step of those inspections, and special ones if needed as things change throughout the year. You know, things can look great in October, and then something happens, and suddenly there's an issue we didn't discover it, but in January or February, suddenly it's a problem. We had that happen, in fact, this last year. So, but for the most part, we try to get it all taken care of and get it turned in. So it's a great help to them, especially planning the budget process, especially if they're new capital projects or if they're coming from the repair and replacement list. So that gives you a chance to see what all this really looks like. Now, this year, we're doing something a little different. Our president, Jack, is here in the audience, and he has just made the announcement that any of the standing committees members are welcome to come on the properties inspections. So From time to time, there may be more than our regular group there, but they're more welcome. And again, the more eyes that are on it, and especially visualizing some of these projects that Carl may have come up with, it's, so much better to understand, to be there and look at it and see what the issue is than looking at it on a slide or just reading about it on a piece of paper. So that's one of our biggest projects. The other things we do is we meet with the general manager and appropriate staff to evaluate and make recommendations to the governing board for possible new construction, major maintenance, renovations, capital budget items, and problems with anything that may come up to the association that was under our umbrella. And this includes association facilities and also space requirements. One of the things we've experienced over the years is we have a lot of chartered clubs. Many of them have designated space. And clubs change. Some membership decreases. They don't need as much space as they've got. And conversely, some of the clubs are growing by leaps and bounds, and they may have 2,000 members. And how do we accommodate that? The other challenge we face with this whole issue with the clubs and spacing, we try to make happy a 40-year age split. It's important that we acknowledge the fact that, yes, things are changing, our population is changing, but we also can't forget that we have long-term residents who have lived here a long time and may not be as physically active as they would, but they still like to meet with their card club or China painters or whatever small group they are. And so it's something we as a committee try to really keep a close eye on, as well as the Chartered Club Committee. But that's a challenge, certainly, because the big clubs, I want, and there's only so much money to go around. So, we can't play Santa Claus. The board doesn't have unlimited funds. So trying to balance out what we can do and what's reasonable, that's all part of what you're going to get involved in this committee. So the other thing that we are charged with is we are every year must do a thorough evaluation and review of the FA, the facility policies. Right now, there are 9 of them. And later this morning, I will be giving you a little more direction about that, if you have some homework coming up. But it is important that we review those, make changes where necessary. Just for the benefit, I wanted to just share with you the list of what's in print about what these policies that we were looking at will be covering. Capital project planning process. Now that one is currently being worked on by staff for some possible changes and updates. The next one, donations, memorializations, naming and advertising guidelines. Indemnification of the association, safety awareness, smoke-free environment, space allocation in association facilities, association-approved non-event advertising, alcohol restriction on association property, association-approved single event, and commercial sponsorships. So as you can see, you're going to get a whole new education in this term on this committee, because there are an awful lot of things that we do come in contact with. Any questions about anything I've covered so far? None from the audience as well? Then let's move along to 4.01. And Carl, you're up.
Thank you, Director Williams. It's good to be back and nice to see some fresh faces. So, look, Russ and I look forward to working with you this year, doing the tours, as Kay said. Our report is work that's been completed since the new fiscal year began, July 1st, and I will get started. Capital projects updates for R.H. Johnson, the social hall hardwoods, the racquetball hardwoods, and the table tennis hardwoods were all completed between 7/10 and 7/12. The sports pavilion sound system renovation was a carryover project from a previous budget that was completed on 8/7. Member Services awnings replacement is a project that's in progress, and those awnings will be installed here in a few weeks. Tennis facility courts resurface, courts 1 through 16, two-phase project. We currently have courts 8 through 15 closed. They begin power washing today. They had a few days delay due to busyness and closing out a couple other projects for another customer. But they reassure me that their time frame is still within the time that we set for the project. So we'll go from phase 1 of, like I said, courts 8 through 15. As they get those fully resurfaced, then we'll go into courts 16 and then 1 through 7, and get that project wrapped up by 9/27. The spa building, roof, pool storage, and small maintenance building, the foam roofs are being restored beginning this week. Pickleball facility windscreen replacement will be happening at the same time as the pickleball, R.H. Johnson pickleball facility courts resurfacing. There was a little delay on the windscreen, so we'll just tie that into during or at the end of the project. Moving on to Palm Ridge. The aquatics building indoor pool wainscot tile was completed on 7/29. The outdoor and indoor pool deck renovations and the new rubber coating for those decks were completed on 7/26 and 8/15. That facility is fully open for use. The pickleball facility shade canopy fabric replacement was completed on 8/7. And the pickleball facility courts 1 through 10 out of the 18 courts. This cycle, we have 1 through 10 being resurfaced, and they will be closing on 9/9 along with the R.H. Johnson facilities. So R.H. Johnson will be fully closed, all 8 courts, and Palm Ridge will be maintaining 8 courts for operational summer play. And you can see the end date is approximately 9/23 for those all those courts to be completed. The fitness room strength and cardio equipment replacement, that project is scheduled for 9/11 and 9/12, and that will be a full building closure. The reason for that full building closure is that we need the entire lobby and hallway systems for the removal and setup of new equipment and floor cleaning, and then get the equipment put in a 2-day process. So there's just way too much equipment to allow a safe environment for people to use the building for 2 days. So, and then if there's any maintenance projects, I'm sure Russ will be scheduling during that time frame as well. Beardsley Park perimeter fence and gates project is in progress. In fact, the fence has begun this morning. And so just a reminder, that is approximately a 4-foot tall iron fence with multiple gate systems that provide access for maintenance, provide access for events, provide access points for egress out of the park in case of an emergency. I've already had a vendor pour 2 additional walkways to the park for better egress from the sound pavilion. So if you come up the lawn, you no longer will have to walk through granite landscaping areas. There's a beautiful 5-foot wide sidewalk. And then closer to the east end of the park, past Ramada 10, there is also a new walkway. These comments came from last year's committee about creating a few more relief points for when people want to exit an event. And again, the gates and fencing system will work hand in hand with that new walkway system. The arts and crafts parking lot, seal and stripe. You see that arts and crafts is first for 2 days, 9/16, 9/17, full closure of the parking lot. And then the aquatics parking lot follows the next 2 days, the 18th to 19th. A lot of folks ask me, hey, didn't we just do that arts and crafts parking lot with brand new asphalt? That is true. Anytime that we have a brand new parking lot installed, within 12 to 18 months, we have to have its first seal coat, and that's what preserves its longevity for the 30-year expectation of that parking lot. After that, we do new parking lots every 4 years. And that completes my report to date.
Are there any questions from any of our committee members here? John?
Yeah, I have a question. Carl, thanks for the report. We're obviously off and running. Can you fill in a little background there on the restroom job at renovation at Palm Ridge? I know it was dropped, but maybe you could have a few comments?
I'm not sure what you mean by dropped, but the partition replacement has been modified. So very successfully, instead of replacing all those partitions, we have found the like bow brick product that is currently installed in those partition areas. And they have all the new locking devices that is on order. So I expect that within the next 30 days. We've already installed 2 units just to make sure that the new modern product fits the old holes. And thanks to facilities maintenance, they installed that for me and it worked out great. And the next positive of this is it's creating a savings of approximately 50% on the whole project. So we do not have to remove all the partitions. The partitions were in good condition, relatively good condition. They'll will finished out their useful life, and but we will have a cost-effective means of locking our toilet paper.
Yeah. Thank you. I noticed it was originally set for late summer during the Palm Ridge shutdown, and I saw it being scratched on that timetable. So that's all good news. And once again, my compliments for aggressively working to solve our problems at a least cost basis. So every extra penny you save us is appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mike, do you have any questions or comments? Thank you. Carl, I'd like to acknowledge what a great job the whole crew has done on the pools. It is so nice to go to the gym in the morning and have people come up smiling and saying, oh, okay, these pools are just fabulous. I'm home, I'm happy. I don't guarantee it'll last a lifetime, but it sure is nice right now. So, but thanks for all everyone did. You know, a lot of the comments I would get were, well, they're not doing anything. There's nobody out there. What they didn't know is that the guys were starting at 7:30 at night and working until 5 in the morning or 6 in the morning to do the work and not be out in 115 degrees. So,
Director Williams, I appreciate you coming out and doing, you know, site tours with me when I saw you there,
Yep.
enjoying your time. And so you saw the progress.
yes, every day.
I'd like to put a plug in if I could. We all know that last year we had a product failure, part of the R.H. Johnson rubber deck. And the vendor, you know, has not given us a hard time about it at all. They have recognized where the failure is in the chemical mix of their resin from their supplier. And so they are returning here on September 16th. We closed the R.H. Johnson pool deck to remove that rubber system and install a brand new system. So that will be closed for 4 to 5 weeks until we get that done. So.
Thank you. Anyone in the audience have any questions about what's going on with all of our wonderful facilities or things that you'd like to know about? You're up, Russ.
Thank you. Morning, everyone. Okay, so as we left off last year, Palm Ridge was in the process of being painted and a bunch of woodpecker damage being repaired. We have since 100% completed that task, and since then have now had to reopen sections as bees have moved in and made nests in there. So it will be a never-ending task, to say the least. We painted the interior of the restaurant and did some minor repairs during the transition between Memos and Pete's Cafe. We painted the perimeter walls around the Beardsley complex, painted the interior of Stardust Pro Shop during a closure, repaired and painted all skylights over the indoor pools at Palm Ridge during that closure. That's not an easy task, as we have to set the scaffold up inside the pools themselves. We modified the entrance to Beardsley Pool from the lobby, removing the original entry door into that pool, which also removed one extra ADA closure, which is huge savings for us. And it made it easier for those in wheelchairs to access that facility. We repaired damage, roof drain line underneath Silvercraft. I believe we talked about it last year. We had mystery floodwaters coming up through the floor in the craft room. Couldn't figure out why. We dug into the plans and found that when the extension was put on, they decided to pour the slab over top of the original roof drain. It broke, roots grew in it, and so every time it plugged it up, so every time it would rain, the roof would want to release itself, and it's coming up through the floor. So we cleaned it out. We got a company out that relined the pipe and now has a 30-year life. So that's all been patched up and it looks great. And then as Carl mentioned, during the closure of Palm Ridge, we have already added that we're going to repaint the hand railing going up the stairs during that 2 days. And there's also some isolation shut-off valves that we had prepped for around the pool. It's where all the hose bibs are. So if they ever leak or go bad, we'd have to shut the entire complex down. We do need a total shutdown to get those inserted. So we've been planning for the shutdown to get that done. And then if we ever have to in the future, we can isolate them individually without taking the whole building down. So that is in the works. And then also, as you know, on the 16th, when R.H. Johnson closes, we will be doing the remainder of the plumbing. The backwash system will be rebuilt at that time, and we will also have our 2 new spa filters installed as well. So once that pool is open, we will be 100% again. So that concludes my report.
Any comments or questions from the committee? Kathy? Suzanne?
Russ, thank you very much for repairing that leak in the Silvercraft. The ants, by the way, did not appreciate it, being disturbed. We've had an ant infestation, which you guys have taken care of. But thank you very much. That was helpful.
You're welcome.
Suzanne?
Russ, previously, there was a problem with the backwash system. Is that what was making the water cloudy in the pool? And by repairing this, it's going to alleviate that problem?
So part yes and part no. So the majority of the issue was the sand or the glass media that was in those filters were coagulated. And it's due from too much suntan lotion, and it gets clumped up, and then water finds its path of least resistance, so it was bypassing the media. And we call that channeling. And so when it was caught, we knew what needed to be, the resolution was to remove the media. So that has been done. The media was removed and replaced with sand because they found that sand works better in horizontal filters. So we made that change. And then up until this point, we have been manually backwashing the 2 filters that were not being backwashed prior to. So with the rest of this modification, we'll be able to backwash all filters individually, which will be better overall. We're basically modifying the design. The original build, you can always find a way to do things better. Well, we did, and that will be done during this next closure. I hope that answers your question.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. That's why I am a member of the Russ Boston Fan Club.
Thank you very much.
Applications are available in the lobby.
And my president is right here. You can sign up with him. Yeah, there you go.
Do we have any questions from anybody in the audience? Or any kudos or preferably not complaints to our wonderful staff that does so much for us, and they are just such a delight to work with. And having started with this Properties Committee in 2012, I've had a chance to work with Russ a long time. Thank God you're still here. And Carl came in and got his baptism by fire and has been just a delight to work with whenever we found a problem, or when somebody at the gym tells me at 6 o'clock in the morning they've got a problem. If Carl happens to be out in the hallway checking on anything else, I'm likely to capture him there and tell him what the problem is, but been very responsive to the needs of the community, and they do appreciate it. So, and of course, they're very anxious for the new fitness equipment. Now, I'm already hearing things like, oh dear, that new machine, when I use the one here, I can have it on power of 10. But that new rowing machine, I can barely do one. So, you know, lots of changes in the equipment. I know you try real hard to give us the same types of equipment, but newer models, and that's great. But yeah, everybody's very anxious to get them. And I noticed that you're going to do a demonstration day. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Two major changes coming to the fitness room. And just to, you know, get rid of any myths, we're not changing the room around. We gave the public an opportunity to see a new layout, which would have created a little more space, but we also found industry important points and community member points that to create new space, you know, you'd be staring at a mirror, and nobody wants to see their jigglies jumping around on a treadmill staring at a mirror. So I'm going to say Sabrina and I learned a lot during the fitness remodel. So no changes. So the room, the floor layout will look approximately the same. The positive comments about the equipment, the same manufacturer won that particular job, so the room's equipment isn't going to change too much, except for the strength side is going to be considerably modern, new fitness equipment, take up a little smaller footprint, which is good. So one of the big changes is that we are adding internet-based streaming to those treadmills.
Wonderful.
So we will be able to cut the cable, if you will. So save a little bit of money on Cox, a little increase in streaming, but people will be able to go onto that machine and virtually watch like Hulu and see any channel privately, and that way then we lessen the discussion about what's on the TVs. Now, that doesn't happen necessarily for the other pieces of equipment, just based on their functionality. We're still going to have 3 TVs operational in there because of the room layout. The other thing that we're changing is, no, not changing. We're doing the next morning, so Friday, the vendor will be out to, you know, introduce the new equipment to the people that are coming first thing. And then in October, we're setting up another date to capture anybody else that we've missed. So
That was one of the questions I was just recently asked, because they were not back yet, and said, well, then will there be another one?
Yep.
Because we want to know how to use it right and so on. So
we're not really reinventing the wheel, so they'll be pretty familiar with the product already. But Sabrina and I found it wise to make sure that there was an introduction day one. A lot of questions from last year's Beardsley. We did that a few days later, and it was quite successful. So the vendor, Fit Logistics, is very excited to be here, and that's what they're passionate about. So,
yeah, well, the crew that was loudest were loud because you were brave enough to do something I commend you for. You put that information on the screen in the lobby by the monitor station where people check in. So people weren't blindsided by what you were proposing on that new layout and what it would mean and what it would change, and so whenever they would say something to me, the first thing I did was hand them a comment card and say, fill this out before you leave today, give it to the monitor. It will go to the right people. They will read it and they will pay attention. But the fact that you had it out there where it was visible, I thought was a good move on your part, because it really did get the community involved in knowing what was going on, especially when it's happening during the summertime like that. So,
and we did receive a dozen or so comment cards, and I'm going to say there was positive and negative comments about the plan, but overwhelming majority was to keep the room the same. And so I think that was successful. So you're going to see that more often from all of us in our project planning processes, so that, because it's hard. We have a lot of media sources, but not everybody recognizes where our information is located. So putting it right in their face was, I think, a good choice. So one other thing too about the Palm Ridge Fitness areas is Sabrina is leading along with Martin and creating a video system for the walking track. We've had a lot of comments lately, both positive and negative, about use of our walking track. We have some active fitness users that believe that the walking track should only be active and fast-paced and for their, regimen or style of working out. The reality is that we have a community of aged folks that like to walk indoors. There's multiple lanes. They do like to walk shoulder to shoulder. They do like to walk in a train shoulder to shoulder. And it creates a conversational environment, a little social while they're walking. And that's a rub against a few really active users. So the facility ops teams is creating a video. We have reversed the fast lanes to be on the outer, slightly longer edge of the track, so that people that are a little slower have the ability to walk slow on the inside of the track where the majority of the benches are located. And so we've locked in that operational decision. We believe it's working. The track still will reverse every 30-day cycle. That's a fitness fact, that it's good to reverse walking on a walking track and get a different range of motion. But I just hope everybody supports the change. We're going to create a video, and that'll be broadcast up there.
I have one other minor complaint. Last year, when we did the walkthrough up on the walking track, we noticed that the cushions on the chairs were in really bad shape. And because of the location of where they are, people do need to sit sometimes and rest, so it's not a place that's not used, okay? So new cushions were purchased, but perhaps we've been penny wise and pound foolish, because these new the chair are hard metal, and the cushions were attached with little Velcro strips. Well, the Velcro strips have ripped off. Some of the cushions are splitting. They're only about that thick. So I know that we have staff that are very qualified on finding good reupholstery things, whether it be the outdoor cushions or chair cushions at the walking track. But just to mention it to you in case my new best friend Don has not approached you yet, every day I see him and, well, have they got new cushions yet? So if nobody had brought that to your attention, I didn't want to add that to it, just because they're...
It has certainly been brought to my attention, so it's not as easy as you think to find upholstery and fabric manufacturers for custom pieces. So
Yeah.
Literally, we had one option, and that's the product that we got. And so when we do our tours, let's just evaluate that again and see where we go from there.
The other question I have also in that same area, is there a reason that we took the coat rack out of that area and there's none on that raise up the floor anymore?
As we get some comments like you're making here about having it, we got equal comments asking for it to be removed. So we find the balance in that. We have coat racks or coat hangers throughout in the other locations. I think even in that area, just cleaner looking coat rack than the big hang it on a hanger kind of coat rack. So I think we made the best operational decision for that area.
Just realize that winter is coming and they do wear heavy coats when they come up. So, those take a lot of room, and sometimes that little teeny hanger doesn't quite work with winter clothing. So just a comment.
Okay.
Cliff, by all means.
Thank you, Director Williams. Just wanted, Carl, if you could give an update on the night cleaning lead and how that's going. I think the community would love to hear that, and it's a position we added in the budget this year. And can you talk about that?
So over the last 2 years of taking on the role for operations, Russ previously had this role, and he was plagued with the same issues that I discovered taking over the role. And as the demographics have changed for employees, COVID had, I think, a big impact. It's hard to fill those seats at night. Something has changed in the world where, you know, the folks wanting to work an evening shift, a night shift, midnights, it's tough. So we had a really great caliber of staff. We still do, but there's been quite a few changes. People have been, we'll just say, the right people are on the bus right now. So, but over this last year, a strong discussion with staff and the general manager to include a night supervisor. So we have Marek Swick is part of the facilities ops team as supervisors. So you have Sabrina as the senior supervisor, Don Daughtry is an additional day supervisor, and Mark Zwick is our night supervisor. And he is doing an amazing task at onboarding. He has taken very creative methods of social networking and finding new staff, filling our empty seats. We're almost full, putting the right people on the right bus at the right location. So now that we have that night supervisor, great things are happening. I think maybe Russ's pool supervisor is feeling the difference. Carlos Basulto handles the engineering of our pools, if you will, but he's got way too much to do to be scrubbing pools. That's our job at night to support that. It was probably one of the hardest parts of night crew to get the right people in place. A lot of turnover, and Mark has just brought a working dynamic that it's proven that this was a good choice. So you probably will never get the opportunity to really see him, but know that we have a great leadership position going on at night, and the team has really been growing and working well together. So,
Is he working at all 4 locations?
yeah, so the dynamics of that position is, excuse me, he's a traveling supervisor, so he literally goes to every rec center every night, provides a report every evening, and then that report is given to us to read during the day so that our supervisor's number one, and the facility leads if it's a direct question or a need from a day shift personnel, so that work gets done. And what we had before was a facility lead at night, and basically that person was doing a great job but had to cover all the vacations and the sick call-outs and never could act as a manager. And so we didn't really have any growth in that area, and to get information related to day shift to support was difficult. So we've seen a decrease in our waxy supplies. We've seen morale increase. We've got the positions being filled, only a couple left to go. And a redistribution. He also takes our heavy equipment from one location to another, where staff who did not drive our company vehicles before, now he can redistribute equipment to do a special project with this machine at R.H. Johnson, now used at Kuntz, bring it back or take it to Beardsley. So it's just been a great change and worth the while.
That is really wonderful news, because I know, what was it, 2 or 3 years ago when we tried contracting an outside group, and it looked good on paper, but the product at the end was not worth our continuing, and it had a short life.
Yep.
Because we realized it wasn't the answer to our problems. So I'm really happy to hear that we've got the right people in the right place, and so many people use our fitness centers and facilities and our pools. You know, a lot of people notice it and get attention. I think that the the newness. It's like getting a new house with all those new pools and all of the improvements we've made. It just freshened up that whole campus, you know, for uses. So, yeah, that's well done and greatly appreciated, because I know it took a lot of work and an awful lot of coordination to try to make it all happen finally, you know, so.
And it takes the community's effort too, because the bottom line is our decks, especially around our pools, are only going to be as good as the cleaning staff can provide the time and equipment to. It takes the community to do their part on the showering and being considerate about what they're walking in from a parking lot of asphalt onto a deck with their shoes, sandals. You know, it is hard for a monitor. It is not their job to be a police officer. So, you know, we have folks that come in with their sandals that they like using in the pool, and it's the same grimy sandals that came from a nasty parking lot and went into a pool environment, walked on the rubber deck, walked on the bottom of the pool. So it takes our part as community members to be considerate to the products that we're using. Otherwise, they're going to get dingy fast.
I'm sure. Any other questions from anyone? Oh, you've got your last chance at Carl and Russ both. Karen put in your place a sheet that looks like this. This is the listing for your use only, not to be duplicated and not to be distributed to others. It is the personal contact information for all the people on the standing committees. It's possibly subject to change, but as right now, that is the accurate document. So we will move along to 501. And that has to do with committee goals and important tasks for the year that this committee is focusing in on. I mentioned that we have to review the facility policies. That very large piece of paper about that thick, the bottom of the stack in front of each of your places, that I just happened to take the opportunity to run you copies of all 9 of the policies that we need to review. Your homework assignment is, should you choose to accept it, when we go on the first walkthrough on the 24th of September, after we have finished that walkthrough, we will gather together. So what I would like you to do is review policies. And it should be, our job should be easier this year than last, because last year we took a very, very detailed review of those policies, and FA2 and FA9 were updated and approved by the governing board. There were no changes made after careful review of FA3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 10. As I mentioned earlier, you don't need to worry about FA1 right now, because staff is working on some possible changes on that, and so that will be coming before us later, but they're not quite ready yet at this time. So when we get together on the 24th, feel free to bring forth any changes that you think would be helpful or make things more clear so that we can proceed and get that done on time. It will be showing up on the agenda for our October meeting. So that's why you got the added paper. The other things that we've talked about, of course, that we're doing is the inspection of the facilities and then review of space allocation. This is an ongoing, never solved problem because, as I said, our times changed. You know, at one point we had 212 charter clubs. Now we're down to 191 or so, or 91, excuse me. And so, you know, there's been a big change and a change in use, but there are, you know, when you've got a club that varies from maybe 40 members to one with 2,000 members, their needs are different, their wants are different. So that's one thing I think this committee needs to look at this year and see if we can help the Chartered Clubs Committee as well, because they're the ones who hear about it first and work together in partnership as we used to do, and try to resolve some of those problems and make the best use of what we've got, because we certainly don't have space to build new buildings, or do we want to spend the money to have to build new buildings? So that's one of the other things this committee would like to work on at this time. We've talked about the inspection dates. First one is September 24th, 6:45 a.m. at Palm Ridge, and you will be getting through some of those. Palm Ridge this year ought to be the easiest one of all because we've done so much work on it this last summer, with so many projects have been out there. But we do spend 2 weeks. We split R.H. Johnson into 2 weeks because there's just too much here to try to absorb and do in one setting. So at the end of that, we will submit our recommendations to the governing board as far as what we have found. And it is a huge help also for our budget and finance folks to have input from us on what might need replacing, repairing, what might be able to wait a year, and all of those kind of things. So for those of you who are new that may not be aware of the process, the CR13s have to be done by any of the chartered clubs that want changes in the next, not this current budget year, but for the next budget year. They have to have those to Carl by July 1st. Carl and Russ spend 2 months going through all those Christmas wish lists and all the items that are submitted to see if some of it's already on schedule or some of it maybe could be delayed or modified without major project. So those are the first items that will be coming to us in 2 or 3 months from now. They will be coming to this committee to see what the CR13 requested, what club it was from, and so on. So you'll be hearing a lot more about that. But anyway, that's the process that we're dealing with on those. The fun never stops with this committee. I think you will enjoy being on it. You will find out you will learn a lot. And you will find out that suddenly everybody knows your name. You will get questions in the strangest of places. But I had my first opportunity the other night of all the years I've been doing this. Sunday night at 6:15, my doorbell rang. And a lady who just happens to live at the other end of our street, but I'd never met, came to complain about something. And she went on, and then I told her the process she needed to go through. Well, she didn't want to do that because her name would be on it. I said, well, that's the steps, this is where you start to get some action. Finally, I said, I'm sorry, but my dinner is getting cold. Call me if you want to come back tomorrow and talk, fine. But Sunday night at 6 o'clock is a little much. So, but of course it was overtime pay, no problem there. Anyway, so do we have any committee comments at this time on anything? Carl?
Do you have a printout of the full committee tour dates?
Yes, I've given those to Russ already. I'll give you this copy when you're gone. Yeah. It's always on Tuesdays, always at 6:45. It's the 24th of September, that first week of October, skip the third week, and the following 3 weeks. So it's all till the end of October.
Perfect.
But yeah, then pretty much the same order that we've used in the past as far as which dates we go to which location. That hasn't changed any from what we did last year.
Thank you.
Any comments from the audience? Yes, would you please go to the mic? Enter your name and your rec card number, and you have 2 minutes.
I'm down here. Would you like me to write it on the form as well? Yes. Pardon me. My name is Julia Miller. I'm with the Desert Garden Club, and my member number is 142304. I was asked to come today by Carl to approach the committee about some metal art that has been donated to the club. This metal art has actually been in conversation for about a year, as far as I know. Initially, when we were approached, we were asked to take the whole collection. And as some of you may know, that included a 20-foot dragon with a wingspan of about 40 feet. Obviously, we can't take that. We just don't have enough space. So I'll set your mind at ease to let you know we're not asking for the dragon or even the 8-foot stallion. And I can put together a packet of the items that we are asking for. Most of them will go in our designated club space at Beardsley Center. We do have a few items that we would like on the, I'm going to refer to it as the North Garden, north of the Beardsley Wall, right off of Beardsley Road. on the south side of Beardsley Road. And those items would be no taller than 3 foot. Again, they are metal art. It is rustic, rusted metal. So it, to me, blends with desert interior, desert items that you may have. It won't look like a garage sale, if you will. We'll make sure that it does not. And again, those items I can take photographs of and submit to the committee. However, I need to get this process going. I don't know where to go other than to you.
I'll be happy to answer that question for you. This is an issue that's an operations decision, not something that belongs here in the Properties Committee. Our general manager previously, when the large process was in order of take all of them, which was over 100 items, they were notified that it was not going to be accepted and not something that we could deal with. So we now have a new general manager that I'm going to introduce in a minute, and so you'll be hearing back from him. But that's the process. So hopefully that will answer your questions.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, Nick. Nick Turner, 131829. I should have perhaps come forward a little earlier, but it's about the Palm Ridge walking track again. I am a user of that track, and I've noticed a new signing and that things were moved around, and that there was requests there for people to be polite when it comes to the faster walkers who may be obstructed by the smaller walkers. But I don't know if we can do any more with signing or not, because my experience recently has been that people are not reading the signs. There are slow people in the fast track and fast people in the slow track, people wandering around in the middle. And if you are a faster walker than the majority who are there, you have a zigzag route around the walking track. It's not a major problem. It's not a big issue when it's quiet, but I do know when it gets busy there, you can get some traffic jams. So I don't know if we can improve the signing or not, but thanks.
Hi,
Thank
Nick.
you.
Oh, okay.
Absolutely.
Hi there, I'm Sabrina. I'm the senior facility supervisor. We have noticed the same issues that you are noticing. We are wanting to put more signage if people read those signs, but that's kind of our idea with the video. But we are noticing that people aren't being courteous up there, and we're just trying to change the environment overall. So, yeah.
One other thing to consider too, hopefully now that the weather was getting cooler, maybe we'll have more people using our outdoor track, which is great to do most of the months of the year. So there is another option for them as well. So, thank you. I almost met our president's demand. He strongly urged the chairman of these 5 standing committees that 1-hour meetings would be preferable to marathon sessions. So we almost got it done in an hour. So with that, I adjourn the meeting to my committee. I will see you 20. Yeah. Well, did anybody know that we had a new general manager? Stephen, would you like to come up and make a couple of comments?
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity, committee members. I'm excited to be here. Again, my name is Stephen Erno, and I come to you from a 35-year background in public service. So a similar but very different, of course, environment. But I do appreciate the opportunity to be here, and definitely appreciate all the committee members, especially the first timers. I love when I hear that somebody new on these types of boards and committees, because that's what the community needs to keep that involvement going. So again, anxious to be here, get things going. It's my 3rd day. I haven't broke anything yet that I'm aware of, so I think we're doing well. And it's a wonderful community, and I'm looking forward to working with all of you. and really jumping in and figuring out things like what to do with 40-foot dragons. Thank you.
Thank you. We're so glad you're here, and
Thank you.
it's nice that you've survived that first 3 days and you haven't walked away yet, because you've had a very busy schedule right out of the chute with 3 standing committee meetings alone your first week, let alone everything
Yeah.
else. So
As to be expected, but that's okay. I'm excited about it. It's good stuff.
welcome.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Now we are officially adjourned.